Is this my phone?
That's not soothing.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
That was your wake-up call. For those who don't know me, my name is Tom Coates, and welcome to the May 2024 meeting of the Richmond Ions Community Group. We are, is the camera on? Yeah. Oh, okay, thank you. As many of you know, IONS, and some of you don't know, we go through this little liturgy every month. IONS stands for Institute of Noetic Sciences. It was founded in 1973 by Edgar Mitchell. Edgar Mitchell was the lunar landing module pilot for Apollo 14, and like several of those fellows who landed on the moon and walked on the moon in the late 60s, early 70s, he had a takeaway experience from it. His occurred as he was returning to Earth and looked down and saw the Earth as a pale blue dot off in space. And he had a unity consciousness experience that was triggered by that visual. And he resolved at that moment to dedicate the rest of his life to exploring the frontiers of consciousness, especially the interface between science and spirit. Mitchell had a PhD in aeronautical engineering, so he was more on the science side, but he created IONS as a vehicle for that pursuit, and it's still going today, despite Edgar's passing in 2016. And the Richmond Ions Community Group is one of the oldest continuously operated community groups in the entire global network of IONS, and we're proud to say that we think we have probably the best and most robust speaker program in the whole global network as well. We've been doing this on the third Saturday of each month from 10 until 12, followed by a potluck lunch ever since January of 1996. And so far we're still going strong. We're very pleased and blessed to have that, to have the community support we've got and have had through the years. I see today we have a whole bunch of people who have not been here before, followers of our speaker from today, no doubt. And many of you are probably not on our mailing list. We have a piece of paper on the table just inside the door in the back where we ask the people who'd like to be on our list to put their name and their email address, and then please write it legibly so we can properly duplicate it. And you'll get a monthly flyer from us with the wonderful programs that we're able to bring you every month. I think we have an announcement from one of our steering committee members, Susanna Calvert, and we'll introduce the speaker.
It's great to see so many tribe members here. How fun is that? I love it when the communities meet. Just a couple of announcements. In addition to the Saturday series, we partner with Sanctuary of Earth to offer a Wednesday, the first Wednesday of the month series focusing on spiritual practice, so that we could also embody as well as know our spiritual path. So next month's speaker is Dennis Lutz, who's over here, and many of you know Dennis, and I'm sure you won't want to miss it. I'm also going to be passing around a little tablet that has the class list for spiritual practices, so you can take a flyer, and if you're not already on the Sanctuary of Earth mailing list for the class series and also the speaker series, you can just sign up. One other thing that Tom failed to mention that I'll like to add, that we very much appreciate your donations, because The IONS, this group relies upon donations in order to be able to offer this beautiful programming. And we have been losing money every month, and so we really do not want to have to charge admission. So if you could give generously when the basket goes around, or if you're on Zoom, to donate on the website, we would really appreciate it to make this accessible for everybody. I'm going to pass this around, and if you could just keep the thing going around when you get it. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Susanna. The basket in the back, we don't require any admission at this point in time. We hope we won't have to go to that, but we do accept love offerings, and a number of people have already made a donation. We will pass the basket during the meeting. We ask that you give it to the level where your heart intersects with your wallet, and do the best you can. If those who have already given are welcome to give again when the basket comes around, but you don't have to. Anyway, what else? Is there anything else? I guess not. As I said, we have been blessed through the years to have one spectacular speaker after another, and this month is no exception. In fact, Lisa was kind enough to come to us off schedule. We had already lined her up for next year, and as many of you know, we had Sandy Ward lined up to speak this month, and she became ill about a month ago, and was unable. Is still in the hospital now, unfortunately. But we talked to Lisa, and she jumped into the void and is filling it for us, and it's just wonderful. So, Lisa Jacenich, right?
Yes.
That's the American pronunciation. Having had a form of Polish vowels, I know how to pronounce J in Slavic. Jacenich. Okay. All right. Lisa lives in Staunton, and is among many other things, she's a world-class wool felt maker, right? Has gone to Mongolia and to learn the art there. Also is a Joe Dispenza practitioner, and when we were putting together the flyer, we had to cut out half of her bio because we didn't have space on the page for her. But she obviously has a big following, because of half the people here today are with her. We hope you all will sign up and for our group, because there is no requirement for membership other than just showing up. And so in any event, we'd like to welcome Lisa, and look forward very much to her talk. She's going to do the opening meditation for today. So without further ado, welcome to Lisa Jacenich.
Can you hear me now? All right. Well, welcome everybody. So grateful to be here and to share what I'm really passionate about. Emotional intelligence. How many of you ever heard that phrase before? Good. Excellent. Excellent. So we've got a baseline going in. And especially coming out in the rain today, this is a really good day to remember that we are the light, and the light never stops shining. And sometimes it gets cloudy and rainy. And so when you think of it that way, it helps us move through some of those dysregulation times so that we can come back to center. I want to thank Dan O'Neill on tech so much. Thank you very much. And we've all walked in today with the rain and traffic and whatever we came in the door with. So I'm going to get you through that in a moment. But what I'd like to do is just set some housekeeping. So if you'd be so kind, Dan, to put up the second slide, actually. The topic is Transmute to Transcend, navigating daily life with emotional intelligence.
Actually,
And this will come up again at the end if you need to.
I need to share my screen first.
All right.
Hang on. Need to go back to that.
And while we're getting that set up, if anyone needs paper and pencil, please raise your hand because there's going to be some experiential exchange during this presentation. And we've got plenty to share. And also, if anyone needs to get up at any time for any reason, feel free. Those of you on Zoom, you're free to put either the camera on or off. If you're still in your jammies, then, use your discretion. The other thing I wanted to say is that for those of you on Zoom, when I ask for a show of hands, find that little button at the bottom of the screen that says raise your hand. And you're also welcome to type into the comments section on Zoom. I won't be able to see it, but Dan will share with me if something comes up. As you can only imagine, this is a big topic and with condensed into this valuable time that you're spending with me today. And if we end up with enough time, I'm going to do a group room reading, some divination to add to the ions environment. We'll see.
Bree raised her hand.
They raised their hand?
Somebody raised their hand.
Okay. All right. So as again, be comfortable. You're welcome to get up and walk around, stretch as you need to, if you need to get up and use the restroom. As I will be asking for some interaction, again, this is free will, so if you're not comfortable sharing, there's no pressure. Some of the questions I'm going to ask you to contemplate, I'd like you to go as deep as you can. And so again, there will be no pressure to share with anyone but yourself, and that's what this is, inner work. IONS is in the midst of that scientific view of our inner experiences, right? And that's what emotional intelligence and self-regulation are all about, the inner experience. And you can change your mind at any time. So just keep that in mind. All right, so as we have come together, what I'd like you to do is become your own petri dish. One of the things I know deep in my heart is that you will prove what you believe. And so I can stand here and throw scientific data at you all day long, but if you don't believe it, it won't matter. And so I'd like you to create your own database today, little one, and I'll send you off with some homework too. So you're going to be your own experiment, so to speak. And that'll gather some data, give you some evidence, because what this asks of us isn't easy. Change is not easy. And so we need to be motivated to do it, and that helps if we have some evidence under our belt to support this initial exertion of extra energy. Ultimately, it's going to lead to a flow of energy before you didn't know. All right, so get out the piece of paper that we passed out, or your journal that you brought, and change to the next slide for me, Dan. We're just going to do a quick assessment right now, this moment. How do you feel on a scale of 0 to 10? And 0 meaning anxious or stressed, maybe numb or depressed. So 0 is bottom of the scale. 5 would be neutral. And 10 is blissed out. That's where we want to go. Vibrant, joy-filled, or inspired. So go ahead and make that annotation, and then after meditation, I'll ask you to assess again. Because again, what we're trying to figure out is this the best use of my time? Every moment, I know time is an illusion. I know who I'm talking to. I know my audience. Yes, I get that. And we are living our human 3D lives with numbers of minutes in each spot on the board, so to speak. So I want this to be valuable for you. So right now, how do you feel? All right, next slide, please. So also what I'd like you to do is transition from whence you came. I only have an hour and a half, and I'm throwing in as many tools as I possibly can along the way, and this is one of them. This is something we don't often think to do, is transition from one activity to another. And we've all come in off the road, and it's been raining and traffic and all of that. So one of the tools that actually Bob Monroe from the Monroe Institute uses is the repository box. So just think of all the things you walked in the door with, your traffic, rain, family, food, whatever, and imagine a box, a big steel, like one of those moving containers, and put it all in there and lock it up, and you got the key. You can come back to it. If there's something pressing on your mind that you really want to remember, go ahead and jot it down so that you're not distracted by trying to remember something. And set an intention. You know, again, I value the time you're spending here, and I want you to value it too. And part of the way we navigate our lives is with intention. So if you hadn't already thought about your intention for being here, go ahead and take a moment to just think what that might be. And my intention is to be present and to share what honestly, my desire is that for every human on the planet to learn self-regulation and emotional intelligence at whatever age, all age-appropriate levels. Because if everyone were embodying this concept, the world, I believe, would be a much better place. So I'll leave you with that. And I wanted to give you some data too. UCLA did a study 10 years ago. We shifted our attention every 3 minutes. Now, every 45 seconds. The average person checks their emails 74 times a day and switches tasks on their computer 566 times a day. And many of us boast about being good multitaskers, but what the study found is that leaves us less creative and less imaginative. And so again, what I'm asking for is presence, and this is helping to get ready for this guided meditation. As we go to do the guided meditation, I just want to say that I chose an audio that talks you through what's called the vagus nerve breath, because the vagus nerve is a very important nerve that communicates to the entire body and all of the organs of the body. And so this is a practice. I know there are many types of breath work, but this is a practice that you can do real time, eyes open, as you're going about your daily life, just through conscious awareness. And so we're going to bring up the next slide for me, please. And so we're going to get into this guided meditation. So please allow yourselves to be comfortable in your chair. You can set down your pads and paper. And there's a female voice on the end of this. At the end of this, my voice will bring it back. Okay? All right, everybody ready? And feel free to close your eyes.
Sitting or lying down if possible. And once you've found a comfortable position, taking a moment to settle in. We'll start this practice off with some short humming. This is a fast and easy way to influence the state of the nervous system. It is one of the reasons why mantra is such a powerful practice. But we will just be using the sound as if you're pondering aloud. You can play with the pitch of the sound. And following the sensations, the vibrations in the back of the throat. And feeling the sensation through your nasal area and all the way to the hollow cave where the neck meets the spine, all areas in which the vagus nerve connects to. And keep riding the sensations inside. And keep humming for a few more seconds. And then coming to silence. Noticing the atmosphere inside you now. Now bringing your awareness to your breath in its own natural rhythm. Feel the sensations that the breath creates in the body. The rising and falling of the chest. And bringing your awareness now down into your diaphragm, the space just under the rib cage and lungs, and just above your stomach. And let your breath drop down to fill the diaphragm completely, as if filling your whole belly with air, front, back, and sides. Throughout the breathing practice, you will continue to breathe through your nose and into your belly and diaphragm on the inhale. And on the exhale, just softening and following the count out. Inhaling again fully into the diaphragm and belly. And breathing out and softening. Letting go. And on the next inhale, you can begin to follow me as I guide you in the counts of the breath. And breathing in for the count of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pause. And exhale, count of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pause. Inhale, count of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pause. And exhale, count of 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Pause. Inhale, count of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pause. And exhale, count of 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Pause. Inhale, count of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And exhale, count of 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale, count of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and exhale, count of 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Inhale, count of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And exhale, count of 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Inhale, count of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, count of 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You can continue now to count on your own, breathing in for the count of 5, short pause at the top of the breath, and breathing out for the count of 10, a short pause at the bottom of the breath. Continue this timing for a few minutes until I come to guide in the count again.
When you completed the last count out for 5, you can drop the count completely. Resting back into the natural rhythm of your breath. You may notice some deep breaths may come. There's nothing for you to do. Just rest into the stillness, tuning into your inner atmosphere. What does it feel like now? Subtle rhythms and sensations you can detect. From this place, finding an impulse to begin to move. Move your body, perhaps moving your toes, fingers. Following the impulse, beginning to move, to wake up the body. Try moving your head from side to side. Slowly finding your way back to present. Subtle movements. We'll finish now by placing our arms around our shoulders as if you're holding yourself in a warm, loving embrace. Just taking a moment to imprint in your nervous system this deep place of rest. And when you're ready, you can begin to blink your eyes open and take in the atmosphere around you and sensing what it would feel like to continue your day from this place, knowing you can always come back and root here. And if you be so indulging to go back to your notes and make an annotation of your internal scale now. How do you feel now? And there's no wrong answers here, because for those of us who have what I will call a hijacked nervous system, to be in a state of calm can be very uncomfortable. And I honor that. And that's one of the things we're going to talk about today, getting our nervous systems reset. Okay. All right. Anybody have your annotations made? So as you can see, I am modeling emotional intelligence and self-regulation right from the get-go. Everything I'm about to do and say, there's a tool embedded in there. So that's why I wanted you to have paper and pen ready. And one of the big things that I have found to be helpful is a threefold view of the world: prepare, enact, recover. So as we are going to do something, you prepare to get there, and then you do it, and then you may need recovery time. And especially for those of us that have full lives, wonderful lives, running from thing to thing, we can sometimes drag energies and thoughts and issues from where we left into the new environment. And so what I'd like you to do is be aware of that, consciously aware, and prepare to go into the next space, the next experience. Like working out in the gym, when you're going to work out, you stretch first, and then you work out, and then you recover, right? You slow down. So this is life, and these are the life skills that we want to embody. All righty then. And next slide, please. So many of us in this room have had extraordinary transcendent experiences, and I acknowledge that, and unique. And even attempts to describe them would be futile. That's why they call them ineffable. And I also acknowledge that in all the different types of transcendence, it can be something as simple as staring into the eyes of a child in a deep moment of connection, knowing that you're fully present and they're fully present with you. And so the word transcendent is on a scale. It can go from an ordinary daily activity to something extraordinary. And this is a mouthful: transmute to transcend, navigating our daily lives with emotional intelligence. So let's break it down some more. So next slide, please. And many of you have heard of emotional intelligence, but I want to make sure again, because as mental constructs, we all have different definitions. So I wanted to share with you the definitions I'm using today. This is the capacity to be aware of, control, and express one's emotions. Awareness is the key. We're in Richmond, right? And give me liberty or give me death, right? And even Desmond Tutu spoke and said that any human who makes up their mind can be free. And I have come to assess emotional intelligence or self-regulation as freedom. And it takes practice and skills, and that's why I'm here to share. All right. So, and we also want to handle interpersonal relationships wisely and empathetically. Wouldn't that be nice? Could you imagine if every human on the planet had a high EQ, how different the world would be? But that's why I'm so passionate about getting the word out, because one by one, we're going to increase the numbers. Can you, woo, yeah. All right. So, at this moment, jot down something in your daily life that irritates you. Whether others do it or don't do it, something that just bugs you. And I won't ask anyone to share, but we'll come back to this later. Just write down something that bugs you. Folks at home, please do the same. All right, and as you're doing that, I'm ready for the next slide. So again, we're defining the terms. Transmute to transcend. Transmute means to change. It's implied that it changes to something better or higher. I like the words alchemize and transform as well. So we're going to transmute or change. Raise your hand if you love change. Yeah, some of us do and some of us don't. Yeah, but we're going to figure out why it's important and what the value back to you will be, to go through the discomfort of change, and to transcend, to go beyond the range or limits of, to surpass. When we talk about emotional intelligence, another phrase I often like to use is emotional maturity, because this becomes a big motivator for me. So we don't have to hide behind, a fancy term. Are we being emotionally mature? And especially when I get triggered. And as long as I've been in this work, again, very authentically and vulnerably and transparently, I stand here and say, I am not yet a master. I'm still an initiate. But that's where we all come from. Totally unaware to philosopher, to initiate, to master. So we're all walking hand in hand as we go along. So to alchemize or transform, to change, to surpass our existing limitations. And so this is a big ask. I get it. All right, so the next slide, I was thinking about branding ideas. Personally believe that every human on the planet should be given this training and skill sets, and so I thought we could call ourselves the Transmutant Ninja Teenage Consciousness Activist Turtles. Give me a right, because again, the more people with the high emotional intelligence is going to up the entire experience of everyone on the planet. All right, raise your hand if you are over 35 years of age. Come on. So by the time you are 35 years old, 95% of who you are is a memorized set of behaviors, emotional reactions, unconscious habits, attitudes, beliefs, and perceptions. You're running like a computer program. The studies show numbers vary, but about 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day. And most of them are the same as the day before. And most of them we don't even hear. And this is what's driving our train. This is what's steering the boat, so to speak. So again, awareness is the key. The more moments in each day that you can be the observer, the witness. You are not the thought. You are not the feeling. You are not the action. You are the observer of it. And that gives us the space to make different decisions, to lead to different outcomes, which I'm sure you will find will lead to experiences you could not have even imagined. Because if you know what's going to happen, you're only dragging your past into your future. Not knowing is the only real point of creation, the unknown. All right, so, and all of your experiences are being perceived and filtered through these memories of the past, not just in this lifetime, ancestral, cellular, goes on and on, right? Next slide, please. So our goal is to adapt and thrive. And my purpose of speaking here, and to anyone I speak to really, is to improve quality of life. Physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And it's estimated that this was pre-COVID actually, pre-pandemic, that 70% of the average person's day is spent in the stress response. And stress is survival. We are blessed with this human body that is both a primitive nervous system as well as this higher level of consciousness. So the autonomic nervous system is what's giving us these wonderful survival abilities, fight, flight, or freeze. And at the same breath, it's kind of like having an alarm system set up at your house, security system. And the lights start blinking and the sirens going off, and you jump out of bed and you go running to the door to see what's happening, and it was just a stray cat. So this is how I want you to think of yourself when you go into a potential reactivity based on perceived danger. Just pretend it's a stray cat. Go back to the breath. This vagus breath that we just practiced, when you elongate the exhalation, this is the message through this incredible nervous system telling everybody, we're good, we got this, we're safe, all right? So these are the kinds of tools we want to use. And you don't have to be sitting in a cross-legged position with incense burning to do it. How many of you noticed during that breath how shallow you normally breathe? Raise your hand. It was hard to get up to 5, wasn't it? Yeah. And that's, again, constant message to the body that the tiger's chasing. So this is why we want to really increase our skills with the kind of breath we are using every minute of every day. Next slide, please. So self-regulation and emotional intelligence is the ability to monitor and manage your energy states, emotions, thoughts, and behaviors. And I'm here to tell you this is not easy. This is not easy work. It takes great courage, great compassion, self-compassion, and diligence. And so again, just to remind yourselves that you can't stop thoughts from coming in. You don't want to really. But you don't have to hold on to them and then start spinning stories out about them. Because once even if you're sitting calmly, your brain doesn't know the difference between thinking about something and it actually happening. So if you're sitting there having your morning cup of tea and all of a sudden you think an angry thought, your body releases the chemicals as if whatever made you angry was happening again. All right, so remember, you are not the thought, you are not the feeling, you are not the behavior, you are the observer. And with practice, it gets easier and easier. And eventually, it'll become so easy you don't even have to try so hard. Next slide, please. Again, we all are valuing our time, and this is a big chunk of your day. So the question is, why is emotional intelligence the best use of my time and energy? So I ask you to take out your journal in this moment and just do a quick little life assessment in these areas. So again, 0 to 10, 0 being the worst, 10 being the best. In the area of health, how do you score yourself? How do you care for your body temple with nutrition and hydration and strength and flexibility and balance? How do you score yourself in relationships? Look closely at the people nearest to you, and how is that working? Where do you fall out on that scale? And prosperity, this isn't just about money. In fact, I know I got some Gene Keys, Richard Rudd people in the audience. Give me a woo-hoo. So my prosperity nodule on the Gene Keys is intimacy of relationships. It has nothing to do with money. And so again, it can be prosperous life, and it doesn't mean there's X number of dollars in your bank account. Right? In fact, many people with lots of zeros after that dollar sign in their bank account are still not satisfied and not happy. And then the last one, self-expression. How do you rate yourself in terms of what you do every day and your self-expression? Is it satisfying? Is it the fullest expression of your unique gifts? And as you finish that up, I'll introduce the next, we're actually going to see a little video. So part of the reason that change is so hard is that there has been imprinting, programming, conditioning, institutional and cultural as well, not just familial, and also coming through the ancestral line. And I got some Sheldrake fans in here, right? Sheldrake was plans. It's coming from the morphic field, right? So it's coming from everywhere. So there are electrochemical signals. You get this rush of energy when you're in the stress response. Your pupils are going to dilate, and your immune system shuts down. Your digestive system shuts down, because if the tiger's chasing you, this isn't time for your body to be doing those things. It's in survival. Your heart and respiration change, and the blood rushes to the extremities. And so this is one of the reasons why change is so hard, because this rush becomes an addiction. Dan, Lisa, show the video.
So when you perceive a threat in your external environment, whether you see a lion, or you react to your mother-in-law, or you begin to auto-suggest by making thoughts more real than anything else, your brain and body go through the same physiological responses. The neocortex, or the thinking brain, produces a level of mind that signals the midbrain. The midbrain then sends an electrochemical signal down your central nervous system, all the way down to your adrenal glands. The moment your adrenal glands get the message, they begin to squirt out adrenaline, and the reason is because the body's getting a rush of energy for an emergency situation. When that happens, the pupils dilate to let more light in, digestive juices begin to slow down because you're not interested in digesting, your heart rate changes, your respiratory rate changes, and blood is sent to the extremities to prepare you for this emergency situation, and your body's knocked out of homeostasis, it's knocked out of balance.
So all organisms are designed for short-term stress, but not long-term stress. And so when we find ourselves in a state of hypervigilance, that's when we have issues and can lead to disease. Because the body just isn't designed to do that. And especially, again, for those of us that have been in this state for many, many years, it's going to take will to reset that baseline. Again, the benefits are off the charts. With DNA, we could go for 120, right? I had a girlfriend ask me, my 90-year-old girlfriend asked me on my 60th birthday, what are you going to do for the next 30 years? Yes, I'm doing this. All right. And so again, the brain is set for the default mode, the negative bias, because it's survival. Because if you plan for the worst case and anything less than that happens, then you're good. But again, this has become maladaptive. So what the skills of self-regulation and emotional intelligence allow us to do is override the autonomic nervous system, like overriding that security system on your porch. Gets it wrong sometimes, all right? And through our awareness, our higher consciousness, we will be able to override the autonomic nervous system. I like to look at the opposite ends of the spectrum. We're either in fear or freedom. You be the chooser. All right. Next slide, please. When the stress response occurs, and this could be anything, and it varies from person to person, even in traumatic situations, not everyone in the environment is traumatized because everyone's perceptions are different and everyone's experiences and life history is different. So, but when you are triggered, there is a gap in perception. There is alteration in how things appear and how they really are. You've experienced this, I'm sure. You're getting ready to go to a big meeting, and you're already at the meeting, right? You're thinking, oh, you're already there, and you're running around getting your stuff, and you're going out the door, and you go, oh, where are my keys? I just had them in my hand. And then you start looking around, look at your keys, because you can't find them because you weren't present, and there's this gap in perception. When you get really triggered, you don't hear straight. You can't see straight. You certainly can't think with love and compassion. So what we're hoping to do is put in place skills that prevent these situations. And if that's not happening, or if this particular instance occurs, then what to do in the critical moment. And then what's the cleanup? Do I have any Ken Wilber and Michael Cotton fans in the room? Integral theory, yeah. So it's not just about awakening, that's one axis, awake. It's also grow up, show up, and clean up. And I'll talk more about that as well. Next slide, please. So the frontal, the brain has three parts, and they're there for you. The neocortex, the walnut shape. And in the front of the neocortex is the frontal lobe. It's not pictured here in different color, but it would be 40% of the neocortex. And that's the crowning achievement of evolution. The frontal lobe in the neocortex is like the CEO. It allows us to be aware and to change our awareness by choice. It's also the volume control. And, you've experienced this in a restaurant, you're having a conversation, there's lots of background noise, but you just zero in on the person you're speaking to. Have you had that experience? Well, that's the same thing going on in your head. There's lots of chatter coming from all different directions saying, yeah, but do you remember that? And you know you did, you know. Hey, I'm walking hand in hand. So what we do is we turn the volume down on those things and move towards appreciation and gratitude and finding our way to embody our values even in a moment of disresonance or discord. And again, in the world of integral theory, we're moving from the me, and the you, and the they, to the we, to the all. Then the limbic brain, the midbrain, this is the emotional brain, this is the chemical brain, the seat of our autonomic nervous system. And this regulates our bodies and sends out all the messages, homeostatic and chemical functions. And here's a phrase you might want to jot down to help get out of something you created, like, oh, my limbic brain got hijacked. That's a good comeback, when you're trying to clean up the spilt milk. Yeah, my limbic brain got hijacked. Okay. And then the cerebellum, this is the seat of procedural memory. So like if you get up and walk to the door, you don't have to command all of your muscles, tendons, and fascia and bones to get to the door. It just does it, right? Or if you get on a two-wheeler and ride a bike and you've already learned how to balance on the bike, you don't even know how to do it, correct? You just do. So this is what we're attempting to do, is replace those subconscious memories with new experiences to override the old stuff, all right? And I'm going to show you an actual image of the brain in a little bit, but just hold on for a moment. And these three brains also reflect going from thinking to doing to being. So at first, embodying emotional intelligence and self-regulation might take a lot of efforting. And then the more you have to do it over and over and over and over and over and over again. And then at some magic moment, it drops into the cerebellum where you don't even have to think about it anymore. It is your way of being. And that's when this energy becomes released, because all the gas sucking from being stressed out is shored up. And so this makes available to you an immense amount of energy for creation, for creativity, for interconnection, for love and community. Anybody want to do more of that? Yeah. No. All right, next slide, please. All right, so when there is a trigger, something occurs, a stress response is triggered. First, understand that this is an important signpost saying, look here. Whatever just happened needs to be examined. It might be a need that you didn't even identify yet that hasn't been met. So it might be a helper to identify a need that you can then speak in loving kindness without attachment to the outcome, knowing that you're resourced no matter what. That's a long one. It may be the opportunity to heal a wound that's been there for a long time. I got caught up in the word transmute, the word mute. So if you get triggered, don't speak, don't type. Allow this biochemical reaction to settle. It only takes 90 seconds to 2 minutes to come back down, unless we keep jacking it up. All right? Okay. Yeah, so Tom didn't mention it, but I am an Army veteran. I was a lieutenant in Medical Service Corps, first group of women to train side by side with the men in Army boot camp. Talk about stress. But the reason I bring it up is because I'm all about acronyms, and there you see one, PNC. Pause, notice, choose. If you can do that, you're going to go a long way. Remember the breath. The breath is the first signal to the body that you're safe. Come back to the present moment. Chances are you're spinning out stories of the past or predicting future based on the past, but you're right here, right now. No past, no future. Instead of perhaps antagonizing or attacking, the best course of action would be to be curious. Miscommunications, in fact, I don't know how any communication happens clearly, because everybody's bringing their own stuff, their own definitions, their own experiences. Like, how do two humans ever clearly know what the other is saying, right? And so this is, again, why curiosity is such an important tool, because then it's like, please share, please share what's going on. And if we bring the energy of love and compassion to that conversation, it's going to go a lot better than, what's going on? You see? It's not just the words, tone, facial expressions, energy, it's all of that wrapped up. And again, identifying and breaking any limiting habits that you become aware of. And I'm going to give you some questions to help you track that. Meditation is the single best way to reset your nervous system. And the science is off the charts. Dr. Joe Dispenza is about to release publicly his newest documentary with the latest science, the single largest scientific experiment ever conducted on meditation. And this is a preventive activity, a daily practice to get us reset. But when you're in the midst of your daily life, it's not like, excuse me, I gotta go sit cross-legged in a minute. You see what I'm saying? So it is a huge tool, and one that's going to build your resilience and allow you to be comfortable in calm and neutral instead of chasing the cortisol and adrenaline flow. So prevention is best. Prepare for known stressful events. There are some things we know, like tax season or whatever, fill in the blank. If you know you're about to enter into an experience that has been stressful in the past, then long before it happens, you prepare and plan out, how can you do this differently this time? And set your energy before you go into that experience so that you're not misinterpreted by the others who are involved. And then when you lose your stuff, which again, how many of you have ever lost your stuff? Then I like to, I've created all kinds of forums, you guys. We call it incident recalibration. Incident recalibration. How can I navigate this experience, this present reality, embodying my values? All right, next slide, please. Give you a chance to read that. So this isn't about positive thinking. This is about changing how you think so you can see other choices, act in new and different ways, and create new experiences, new feelings, new emotions. And that will then, because they tend to be better than the old way, is going to motivate you to do it again and again and again. And ultimately, my humble opinion, we're attempting to achieve a state of being, a pervasive state of being, one of unconditional gratitude. Unconditional gratitude. Even when the stuff is right there, can you really take that space, become the observer? No. Thank you. This is my opportunity to grow. I'm in. Okay. Next slide, please. So I ask you to consider the costs of not increasing your EQ. What are the costs of not self-regulating? And in the interest of time, I'm going to let you do this for homework. All right? But look at all the angles in your life. You know, some of us have it's really good in these areas, and then this one, not so good. So we want a robust, all-encompassing, and there are costs if you don't do it. Loss of relationships, all right? Loss of opportunities. If you're very narrowly focused, if you're so convinced that it's not going to happen, it's not going to happen, right? And you can't even see opportunities that might be presenting them that didn't look like you had planned it out. So you can't see it. Next slide, please. There are also payoffs for not changing. And this, again, takes great courage to fess up to, so to speak. I won't ask for anybody to share. There are payoffs. You know, this primitive nervous system designed for survival, that is the premise of all the right fighting that goes on in whatever topic. You've seen it, right? You gotta be right. That is a veil, that's a filter to the primitive nervous system, because the primitive nervous system believes that if it's wrong, it will die. And we know that those things are not life or death most of the time, right? And to the primitive nervous system, familiar equals safe. So if you are in a very high state of stress all the time, that is comfortable to you because it feels safe, because that is the familiar. And that may be why you've experienced some discomfort in the calm of the breath work this morning. Or if you find yourself all of a sudden in the middle of the day and there's nothing getting you jacked, you look for it. Okay. And the end goal of emotional intelligence is to take 100% responsibility for the experiences in your life, period. We tend to want to blame, point the finger, no, 100% responsibility right here. And if you want to be really courageous, you can jot this question to yourself when you find yourself in dysresonance. What have I done to contribute to this dysresonance? What have I done to contribute? And then, of course, the next question, how can I contribute to its resolve, to its resonance? You ready for another acronym? ACR. Acknowledge, console, repair. When dysresonance occurs and you realize you've been party to it, it's like spilling the milk. Clean it up. And this has been, in my travels, a really valuable tool. Acknowledge, yep. It's hard for people to say, I screwed up. Let's do a Matt Kahn. If you're comfortable, repeat after me. I screwed up.
I screwed up.
Yeah. Again, to the primitive nervous system, that means death. If you screw up, you're going to get kicked out of the cave. You can't live on your own in the wild. Okay? So that's why it's so hard to say. But if you practice saying it, then it's not so hard. And it also makes you authentically vulnerable. Yeah, I screwed up. And I can see that this has impacted you. And I want to make it right. And I want to comfort you. I want to soothe you. And again, you can't always have that for yourself. And so again, can you practice soothing yourself? I've even recorded my own voice on my phone in an audio recording, sweet girl meditation. My sweet girl meditation. Yeah, a sweet girl. Yeah. Yeah. People don't understand you. Yeah, I get it. They piss you off. Yeah, I know. Yeah. Okay, acknowledge, console, repair. And sometimes the repair is obvious, and sometimes you need to ask, how best can I resolve and make a repair for what has just occurred? You expect it in a restaurant, right? You expect it when you go out and buy something. It's not what you contracted for. You want something in return, right? Okay. All right, next scan, and next slide, please. All right, this is an actual image of a brain. And if you look on the upper left, and on the left-hand image on the upper left, do you see a hole there? That's a traumatic brain injury. And on the right, do you see in the middle, on the upper, the right? This is when my wires cross. You're looking at the image on your right, but on that image in the upper left, in the middle, do you see the red circle? Yeah, that's the limbic brain. That's the security system. That's what's setting off the alarms. Slide, please. Those brain images are mine. I was getting into this device. It was a SPECT scan at Dr. Daniel Amen's clinic in Reston. In 1994, when I crawled into a hospital for help, that was my level of suffering. Of course, they're going to give you diagnosis. And they did. And it was a misdiagnosis that set me on a path of 15 years of a pharmaceutical nightmare. All along, I'm still suffering, still looking for answers. Pages and pages and pages of single-spaced lifelong learning. And it wasn't until I came to the work of Dispenza that finally somebody was telling me how to do it. Everybody's telling me what to do, but not how to do it. Now, you can switch the slide. Thank you. So in your travels, as you find yourself engaged with people, understand that there are a lot of walking wounded out there. Okay? And I have come to the conclusion that the gift that we can give to everyone is to give everybody the benefit of the doubt. We don't have to know their story. We don't have to know if they got a TBI. We don't have to know that. No, just give them the benefit of the doubt. And I like the words to go along with this: strong, soft, and sweet. So as we become the master alchemists, if we can engage with ourselves and with each other from the angle of strong, soft, and sweet, that would be good. My sister's in the audience, and she reminded me yesterday about phone etiquette. So just a quick story. Our father worked for Bell Telephone for 45 years. We had 16 phones in the house and 2 phone numbers. And we were taught phone etiquette at a very young age. And we have a low tolerance for those who don't have good phone etiquette. So one day, this is long before I came to know anything about emotional intelligence, Jim and I were driving down on Route 81, 70 miles an hour, and the engine blew up on 81, 70 miles an hour. And we left blindly guided. We were right there at an exit. We'd get off the road, but you can imagine how terrified we were, right? So I get the phone and I'm calling roadside assist. And the woman on roadside assist said, "Do you know where you want to take it?" And my daddy voice comes in and I can hear myself. And I'm thinking, I'm ready to blast her. And I know that if I blast her, I'm nowhere. So I intuited emotional intelligence long before I came to know it as a field of study. And I took a deep breath and I said, "Oh, thank you, ma'am. I just need to share that we just blew an engine at 70 miles an hour on the highway and I'm quite frightened and probably in shock. And I don't even know where I am, let alone be able to tell you where I would like you to have me take the car. Could you please help me through this?" And she said, "Oh, yeah, sure, I know, I got the map right here." And she shifted. Again, this is co-regulation, and this is the other part of this story. If you can get your toroidal energy field straight, it will impact those around you. So yeah, you were telling me about another etiquette story, right? Maybe you remember that. Next slide, please. Thank you for the indulgence of that personal story. All right, pause, notice, choose. I'm still finishing the pocket guide, but I thought it might be handy for people to have one of these in their purse or in their wallet. And yeah, again, what we're focusing on is not just the act of not reacting, but also what is my intention in this moment? What are my values? How can I embody my values knowing what my intention and purpose is in this moment? And so stay tuned for that. Thank you. Next slide. This is homework. What are the benefits of increasing your skillfulness at self-regulation for yourself, for others, and for the collective? Next slide, please. So the key is to identify any recurring limiting thoughts and beliefs. That's the key. You gotta actually sit there and listen to yourself. We went to Vipassana in 2008. I'd never heard myself before. I was like, shoot me now. And I wanted to leave, and I thought about leaving, and there's nothing stopping me from leaving. And I realized no matter where I go, there I am. And I decided to stick it out. But I still got home, and I still didn't know what to do. So identify what's limiting you in thoughts and beliefs, and make it your commitment to change. And start slow and little things, and you're gonna fall down, dust off, get up, do it again. Acknowledge, console, repair if someone's been consequential damage to your inability to self-regulate. So increasing the number of minutes in each day that you are consciously aware, making new and different choices, leading to new experiences. And this is going to inspire you and motivate you to keep doing it. And then it gets easier. At some magic moment, you don't have to try so hard. It just is. Because you have become, you have reprogrammed yourself out of those limiting beliefs, out of those programs and conditioning that no longer serve, that probably came around when you had no empowerment of your own. It came when you were little. Next slide. I'm repeating this slide because I want to focus on the energy here for a minute. Your energy precedes you. Can we agree we're energy beings? Quantum physics backs us up, right? We might feel the material, but it's all energy. And remember about the transitions and preparing. Get your energy straight, because often, and you've experienced this, I'm sure, where someone had the right facial expression, maybe even the right tone, but there was something definitely not lining up there, right? You know what I'm saying. Okay. All right. And shift your lens, slight shift. And many of you use prayer and calling on your guides. Ask for help. Again, free will. Gotta ask for what help you need. Next slide, please. So this is HeartMath. I'm also certified with HeartMath. They have extensive data on the magnetic field of the heart. And there are actually more signals sent to the brain from the heart than from the brain to the heart. But again, this looks like, kumbaya day, right? But it can be the opposite as well. If you come in here with very chaotic energy, you're going to impose that on those around you as well. But it doesn't take much to help. Next slide, please. I want to talk a little bit about co-regulation and share another story. I was coming out of a restaurant, getting into my car in Staunton, and across the street in the library, a woman was screaming bloody murder on the top of her lungs. She was screaming. And at first, as I looked over, I thought, somebody's going to call the cops, and the cops are going to take her away. And she's probably been the one who's had something happen to her, And then I'm thinking, what would I do? I don't know. How would I help? And then I thought, but if I drive away and do nothing, can I look at myself in the mirror and feel good about myself? And the answer was no. So I got in the car and I had to make a couple of U-turns to get over there. And the whole time I'm praying, help me. Use my vessel. Help me. I don't know what to do, but I am open to be the vessel. So when I got over to the car, she was already now in the car. There was another woman in the driver's seat who was sitting there totally motionless. As I pull up next to them, I noticed that the windshield on her side has been smashed. I didn't know if it was from her fist or from her head. But she's now in the car, no longer screaming, but sobbing, mucus coming out of every orifice. And I'm getting out of the car, still not even sure what I'm about to do, but confident that Spirit's going to guide me. And as I got right to her window, I made the motion to open the window, and the driver opened the window. And I'm often wearing one of my hearts. I brought hearts for everybody today, by the way. And I took it off, and I said, I just want to share with you that maybe if you hold this heart, it's very soft, maybe it will help to comfort you. And she kind of grabs it out of my hand, and so I knew trying to walk her through breath work was not going to help in this moment. Okay, I said, you know what? It might help if we get out and just walk a little bit. And she got out, and the other one got out, and so I'm engaging all five senses. It was fall, and can you see the trees and the colors of the leaves on the trees? Can you hear the leaves? I'm kicking the leaves with my feet. And I said, I'm thinking, okay, this isn't working either. Help me. And all of a sudden, I said, hey, do you guys know the 16 step, that country line dance? You both stopped. Thinking I'm out of my mind, which of course I am. I said, yeah, the 16 step. It goes like this. And I go into this very elaborate demonstration, foot by foot, of the 16 steps, and they start doing it. And we make it back to the car, doing the 16 step. She's no longer sobbing, she's obviously upset. And I just put my hands open to her and I said, look, I don't know what's happened and I don't need to know, but I know there's a solution. And I know that you can get to the solution from a calm place. And just know that in this moment, you are safe. And we hug. So co-regulation, whether that's somebody at your kitchen table or in your living room or a stranger on the street, it takes a village. And we're all carrying something. And next slide, please. So we're trying to get our behaviors to match our intentions, our actions equal to our thoughts, our mind and body working together to create new emotions and new experiences. And this is when you are teaching your body chemically what your mind intellectually understands. And when this occurs, you are biologically changing and rewriting the automatic programs. You are embodying knowledge. Next slide, please. So your takeaways in this limited time that I value so greatly. The goal is to improve the quality of our life. How many of you want to do that? Yeah. The sign language is this more. I now go to sleep saying, this was the best day of my life and tomorrow's going to be even better. Track and recognize your limiting patterns. Start a journal. When do you get irritated? When do you get pissed off? When do you find yourself in a fight? When do you start cursing at your computer? And sometimes it's got nothing to do with anything, but your body needs fuel. It could be food, could be hydration, could be rest, sleep. How many of you are sleeping adequately? Because you're in high beta right before you drop off and then you're not getting restorative sleep. If you have an underlying belief, I don't care what you do, you'll prove it. And generalizations on underlying beliefs, again, that have come from all sources. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. I don't deserve, blah, blah, blah. Can you have a blah, 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 blah. Because it's not true. I don't care what you've done or not done. Unconditional love. Set intentions. And we want to prevent wherever we can, deal with something in the acute phase if necessary, and repair if necessary as well. And what's the return on investment? There are, between 7 and 8 billion of us on the planet, no two alike, each bringing their own gifts and skills. But if we're in the stress response, we can't access those wonderful unique gifts. So we want to maximize our gifts and the human potential because of the ripple effect. Be riding the wave. Yeah. Okay. I'll blow through the next couple of slides pretty quickly. So the next one, at a Dr. Joe event with thousands of people, about 150 of us were chosen to get QEEGs. Next slide, please. And I was one of them. Now you saw that big crowd of people, right? And it was like, where they had us sitting was the main aisle to go to the bathroom. You can imagine a group of thousands of people, how many people were going to the bathroom, right? And to stage us, they had us in really uncomfortable chairs, and that traumatic brain injury from the 40-foot rope drop fall also created some back discomfort, and they had me in a chair that by the time I got hooked up, I was in excruciating physical pain, level 20. And yet I knew what they were doing. And I know what I teach for a living, and I wanted an image of my brain in theta. And I made up my mind that I would access the theta brainwave state no matter what was happening around me. And fortunately, I had been a practitioner long enough to be able to do that. So that's my brain in the state of theta. Just next slide, please. This may be hard for you to see, but at the top it says, within every problem lies the potential for a higher state of coherence. And on the right side of that chart is coherence, love, peace of mind, energized, value self and others, happy and relaxed. And on the bottom on the left is the point of choice. If you're upset and tense, reactive and angry, blame and complain, afraid, depressed, not coherent. All right, next slide, please. Transcend to transmute. Quickest bullet I can give you, when you find yourself going into the monkey mind, drop into your heart. That's all it's going to take, drop into your heart. How would I approach this situation from my heart? Next slide, please. What we're attempting to do, well, we're evolving, period. It's not like you have a choice, but at what rate and at what level of skill. So we're going from unconsciously unskilled to consciously unskilled to consciously skilled and ultimately to unconsciously skilled. Because when it drops into the cerebellum and it is your way of being, you don't even have to think about it, right? You just do, you just know, you just are. And then I put the word sometimes. Sometimes. Because it's not, there's no finish line. And if you think you got it going on, they say even a Buddhist monk sat down at the table with his family and would lose his cookies. So grow up, show up, clean up, wake up. Next slide, please. What are you ready to leave behind? What are you ready to evolve out of? What limiting beliefs no longer serve you and your highest potential? What are you ready to let go? What are you ready to forgive in yourself and for others? Next slide, please. So many of us keep our masks on most of the day. And I understand that. Again, we've been trained and programmed into that. And when I talk about self-regulation and emotional intelligence, again, I am not saying don't feel. This is not about not feeling. Because if you intentionally resist, it's only going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, right? So feel what you feel when you feel it. But don't react and don't get stuck in it. There are people who have been on a very long trail of suffering, and so that is their familiar, right? So sadness, negativity, anger. Be you, which, again, each of us unique expression. And by being you, that may result in a pleasant experience. If it's a pleasant experience, skinny.
Yes.
If it's an unpleasant experience, again, your choice. You can choose to clean up, acknowledge, console, repair, which may then lead to a pleasant experience and deeper connection, deeper intimacy. Many of you have heard how I explain the logo on my business card with the heart, with the little barbs on it, like the sheep's wool. At a microscopic level, sheep's fibers have little barbs on them, little hooks. They want to connect, and that's why it makes a non-woven fabric. And that's what I say, like just like the sheep's wool, without barbs, we can't connect. If we can't get through disresonance, then we don't have intimacy. And you probably have experienced, your good time friends. And then something comes up and ghost. Right? Okay. Next slide, please. This is the program. Again, you got the very brief Cliff Notes version today. 12 hours, step by step, how to do this, eyes open, real time. And I just want to say that even in my facilitation of this and other programs, I do a couple of them. I do the Heart Math program as well as the Whole Health Institute, taking charge of your life and health. I've got a couple of different programs as well as my own. But like many of you, I think you would agree that whatever time is spent where the giving and receiving is simultaneous, it's the most satisfying. And I'm grateful. And then for the last slide, what I'd like you to do is just, again, put your papers down, relax, wiggle your shoulders. Take a moment. I'm going to take us out on an invocation, so to speak, that I've scribed. I take responsibility for my own inner state. I accept myself in this moment. I accept all others in this moment. I am in sober connection to my real situation. I am free of attachment to praise and blame. I am free of the need to control and need of attention. I am free of complaints. I am comfortable in my own skin, even in unfamiliar situations. I am in alignment with my true essence, and my doings are effortless. I have a strong energy body to digest and assimilate the nutrients of all experiences. And I have an aho.
Oh.
Next slide, please. I mean this sincerely when I say I appreciate you walking hand in hand with me. And I'm now open for questions. Next slide. Thank you.
So, should I stop the share?
Oh, it's up to you. You're the man.
Okay.
You're the man.
Okay, so anybody online, if you would like to ask a question, please raise your electronic hand so I can see it.
When you were doing the 16th step, it strikes me that was bilateral stimulation, and that's very cool.
Beautiful. And not only bilateral stimulation, but a distraction, a healthy distraction, requiring enough focus that she couldn't stay in her stories. Thank you for recognizing it. Thank you so much.
Oh, okay, Lisa, okay.
With the mic to your mouth.
So this is kind of a medical question. So the parasymbiotic relationship with the brain, and specifically like the pituitary glands and the endocrine system, you don't really address that and the impact the brain has. Like all these stimulations, that's what actually kicks the chemical reactions off. Can you comment on that?
Thank you for bringing that up again. This is the heightened Cliff Notes version. Thank you, brother. It's beyond my expertise. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Lisa, unmute yourself, go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
I wrote my question out, so I'm just going to read it. We stand at the crossroads of traditional science and uncharted new earth quantum mechanics. Navigating this liminal space is tricky because science is treated like God in many circles. what do you suggest as a way to open dialogue with others who are stuck in finite thinking about science as it refers to the world we are emerging from, while avoid being negated by those who call it magical thinking when there is no lab experiments and data to support it? I'm thinking of what you just shared with us about your brain injury and just my own personal experiences with medical professionals and being told certain things are, you can't quantify it in any kind of test we can do, so there's probably nothing wrong with it. But then I also am open to the fact of psychosomatic things. I do believe that psychology impacts our physiology and vice versa. And just the idea of perhaps help, like encouraging others to use and as opposed to or, like it's not. It doesn't have to be just only science. Could we also open our ideas in a way that includes both types of thinking?
And your name is Lisa too?
Yes.
Yes. Well, you hit on my favorite phrase, both and. Both and. What I see before us is a new era, a new epoch, where there are not adequate systems in place to support a new way of being, and it's going to take each of us in our individual lanes of expertise and skills and abilities to help roll out what you're describing, Lisa. And I'll use an Edgar Mitchell quote. Or from the website, so much more waiting to be discovered. Let this add to your set of tools and practice to push beyond the current limits of human knowledge. When people find themselves in an area of expertise, they are very narrowly focused, and I tend to want to see the big, broad picture, and so there are some of us that do that. And the narrow areas of expertise are also very important too, so it's going to take a collective effort to put systems in place to be to our highest benefit. Thank you. Thank you, Lisa.
So there's a gentleman, Brian Zimmerman, has a note in the chat. The first step for getting into the present moment is difficult.
Hi, Brian. The first step of getting into the present, again, you're talking to the choir here. I recently spent 10 days in a darkroom retreat in total sensory deprivation. And I can tell you, even without any external distractions, the ability to be fully present is very difficult. So yes, I agree. Thank you. Practice, practice, practice. Next. Thank you.
Lisa, this is very provocative. I'm reminded of a book that I rediscovered just a few days ago, Messages from the Pleiadians, that took place in 1975 in Switzerland. And they said that they are very advanced beyond humans, something like 3,000 years more so than we, but they share the same forebearers as we. And I'm just thinking that their interest in us is more than protection, perhaps, is in what you were talking about, that they don't have, because they are so advanced cerebrally. But what about the heart? Maybe that's where we are meant to be co-creators of our new reality.
Thank you. Thank you for telling us that. Yeah, again, even something simple like we walk in our local park, Gypsy Hill Park, and this one day a young boy fell off his bike, and we were pretty close, but by the time we got there, there was a gentleman there who was a paramedic on his day job, and so he checked him out and he took care of him, But here was this little boy, away from home on his bike, just had an injury. And this technical person did the technically right things. But I swooped in and comforted him. Oh, sweet, how you doing? How does that feel? Are you going to be okay? Can we help you to get home? Can we call your mom? I've got a phone. You see, so yes, there's the proper procedures, but can it be enveloped in love and compassion? Thank you.
I had a question that is about physiatry. Have you worked with any physiatrists, rehabilitation doctors, for example, with your traumatic brain injury? I had one also, and Karen Staunton had a 3-week program. It's well known around the world. Where the first week, you actually sit in a jacuzzi kind of, and it's covered, all the lights are out, and it stimulates you back to the embryo. So it's called like rebooting.
Yes, sensory deprivation is very good.
Then the second week, you hang in a cocoon, suspended from the ceiling. Then the third week, you start with feathers to bring you all the way back from embryo and raise you back up. So I don't know if you work with that or you experience that with your...
I will get that details from you after we're done. What Amen Clinic said was the best course of treatment is a hyperbaric chamber. And I'm not close to a hyperbaric chamber. And as my research continues, I'm actually, as we speak, being delivered a hydrogen generation machine, because the body is 62% hydrogen. And I have great excitement about what this device is going to be able to do for a lot of people, because this is hundreds of years old technology, but they have 72 specific physical issues that can be benefited by hydrogen therapy. So thank you. And my Mika Eisen is the creator of this particular device, and I want to shout out to Mika. Thank you, brother. Next.
Anybody online?
Okay. Awesome. Oh,
We got one.
one more. Thank you.
He was just saying, bring you back from the cocoon. How do you do that?
Let's have that discussion over coffee. All right. Anyone else? I cannot be more grateful. Sincerely.
Amy?
For the opportunity.
Hey, Liz.
She-
First of all, thank you so much for everything.
Hold it closer to your mouth.
Thank you for everything you've done with me, working with me in the last year and a half. My awakening process or experience has been rather immense. And you spoke right at the beginning of this. You were pointing to, like, we can have these very expanded levels of awareness that in and of themselves, they literally change us when they happen, at least they did for me.
Yes.
So I essentially have gone through a few, like, massive quantum leaps that I had no resources or understanding of how to interact with myself or the world. I'm even shaking right now as I share this. So in the last year and a half, starting with you and also with Sanctuary of Earth and shadow work, you know, I came into the spiritual community 5 years ago after having a spontaneous big something. And in the last year and a half, I am literally trembling saying all this right now too. So I think that's even notable. The deep work that I find myself in is truly being able to take different levels of witness position and be willing, and really as a willingness to release my preconceived beliefs, most of which I am finding truly were established in my childhood or quite literally in my lineage. So I know, or at least in acquaintances with almost everybody in this room, and I'm feeling my own expansion in consciousness and the embodiment in which we keep speaking about. I feel like comes through this kind of work, through the shadow work, through the self-regulation. I have found immense benefit in it, and I've had a lot of like big wake-up calls, like, whoa, I call it like, shit, that's me, right? Because I thought it was you, and I thought it was you. I'm like, it's me. And that's startling, and
courageous.
And in that, I have noticed within myself, my oneness experience does nothing but expand. I genuinely ground and embody that when I'm willing to absorb that nobody is doing anything to me and I chose it all. One of the things in the most recent weeks that has been immensely beneficial, and I don't believe it was Susanna or Lisa, I think I heard this someplace else, but it's been working with both of these women diligently, and drop your story, like drop it, I want to hear it. What are you feeling? Because for me, it has turned out being, no matter what the movie is that's playing out in my day-to-day life, if I'm reacting in any way, including in this moment, my body's reacting right now. I need to check in with me, like, what is that? What am I afraid of? Because I'm sitting in front of you guys telling me the truth about how I'm experiencing this. I shouldn't be afraid, a fearful thing, but I'm trembling. That will change.
And that's a good tool in that kind of moment is to ask a speculative question. And like prepare for a meditation, prepare for an insight, prepare for a download, a drop in. And say, I'm open to receive any insights about what's going on with me right now, and then let it go so that you're not in your beta mind trying to figure it out analytically, just allowing it, just allowing it.
Right now, I'm just trying to breathe and not even think about it. But one thing that has, in the most recent weeks, really anchored a lot of what Lisa has done working with me, and even Susanna and a group of women in shadow work, is, I don't know where I heard it, and I would like to know if it's true, but it doesn't even matter if it's true. We use placebo on this, and I can tell you guys it really has helped me, is realizing that the subconscious mind is working 4 times faster than the conscious mind. Mm-hmm. And when I finally could really anchor that, and it's not personal, that the automatic pilot is just always running, that like right now I'm trying to just observe myself because I can feel my leaves shaking, which is hilarious. I don't know why it's happening. But for whatever reason, that has given me a huge permission slip, no matter what my reaction is, to literally just stop right then and there and go, okay, give it a couple of minutes and let my conscious brain interact and make the choice. Unbelievable difference. And I just genuinely want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for bringing this work forward. It really is tools on how to literally integrate a complete shift in my experience as being a human being with an expanded awareness. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you. And thank you for the courage. This isn't for sissies. And it's not easy. It's hard. And you gotta, again, just get up, dust off, do it again. Get up, dust off, do it again. And I'll leave with this last conclusion of mine around my years of study. It doesn't matter what you do or don't do, what you say or don't say. What matters is how you feel about what you've said or not said, done or not done. Thanks, let's go out there. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, woo!
Hey, folks, you've often heard me say how blessed this group is and has been. And this presentation today is another example of that. So I want to express all of our appreciation for you, Lisa, for the wonderful talk you gave us. One thing I want to mention too that Tammy brought up, all of us probably in this room and many of us around the world during this time of shift in consciousness, expansion, and so forth, we're not only here to expand ourselves and clean up our dirty laundry and so forth, but also to clean up our lineages. This is something that is often hidden within us, but it is something that we all came here to do because we cannot shift, whether we call it from baby soul, from young soul consciousness to mature soul, or from third density to fourth, or from third dimension to fifth, or whatever, without doing that as well, because that lineage that we chose to come into this world with in this lifetime is also scarred in the same way we are. And so that is part of the work, and I invite everybody to feel into that and know it as we go forward. And so thank you all for being here. It's been a wonderful day. Anyone who is not on our list who would like to be on, the paper is up front of the room there or by the door. And we'd love to have you all back, those who have not been here before. We have a wonderful presentation next month by a woman named Melissa Gage Perry from up in Vermont about a book she has written a couple of years ago called Being Humans. It's written in collaboration with her and her primary spirit guide named Aralam, and it is actually a wonderful book. So that will be a great program. And now we're at the end of our meeting. We thank those that are here in person. We thank those that have joined us online. And for those who are in the room, we also have lunch in the hallway, our potluck lunch, and we invite you all to join us. You don't have to have brought anything to eat the food. So thank you again, and the meeting is now adjourned.
And party next month. Your party next month.
Sorry?
Your party next month.
Oh, that's right. That's right. We have in June, on June 15th, we have our program in the morning. Plus, in the afternoon, we will have our annual spring fling, and that will be at Isabel's in my house on Sleepy Hollow Road. Everybody that's on the list will get the invitation. Dan is the music is the house band for that party, and it will be weather permitting. It will be outdoors, and we'll all have a great time there. So we look forward to having everybody who's here come there and bring your friends. Thank you for reminding me, Dave.
You're welcome. And to the gentleman who asked about the video, it will be on the website next month. On YouTube next month.
By next week, right?
Yeah.
By next week. All right, I'm going to close the meeting for everybody. See you all next month.